Welcome as we retrace the road to victory. October 6, 1990 saw the culmination of 32 years of struggle, ridicule and humiliation as the Collingwood Football Club once again regained its title as the most famous and successful sporting club in Australia. With 13 premierships till 1958, Collingwood was without doubt the most talked about club in the game. But until then, the talk was more envy and admiration. Over the next 32 years, while maintaining an undying loyalty from its supporters, Collingwood stood back and watched as, firstly, its proud record of the most premierships in the league was overtaken by two clubs, and then watched as 8 grand final attempts failed. Even more damning, they watched as the impossible almost became reality when the club almost went under. Even when Collingwood was experiencing the heartbreak of yet another grand final defeat, there was always next year. But in April 1986, Collingwood faced its blackest hour. Not only had the team lost its first 3 games, the club was $3.5 million in debt and the banks had had enough and wanted the Collingwood Football Club to close its doors. As a result, players were ordered to take a 20% salary cut or leave. Some chose the latter, but the bloodletting on the 14th of April 1986 will be remembered forever.
The total is 3,786 to 1,055.
Just 3.5 years after the new Magpies had swept to power in a blaze of glory and media hype, the dream had turned into a nightmare. Led by newspaper entrepreneur Ranald McDonald, the new Magpies went on an orgy of spending for little gain. On the 14th of April, McDonald resigned, the general manager Peter Bain was sacked, and a man whose heart and soul is black and white, Bob Rose, stood down as coach.
I'm facing facts. I'm coach of the senior side and we haven't won a game, and that's just is not good, and personally I can't accept that.
But as usual, Bob Rose, who already was a club legend as a player, decided his place was on the board for the best interests of the club, handing the reins to his assistant Lee Matthews. Matthews joined Collingwood after a truly remarkable career at Hawthorn, with the enticement of the romance of being the coach to lead Collingwood to a premiership. He also liked the idea that he would serve an apprenticeship under Rose. Little did he know that he would be thrust onto the stage after just 3 rounds of football.
Obviously didn't expect to be senior coach here until next year, but you can't always decide the circumstances under which a job is taken, and I was asked to take over and I was only too happy and enthusiastic to do it.
After such ludicrous suggestions, such as Robert Holmes of Court being offered the presidency, the last remaining new Magpie, Alan McAllister, a grassroots Collingwood supporter, took over the job. Rob Petrie took over as general manager and former player Graham Allen became team manager. The first game was at home against Geelong. And even in this first match, Matthews had very definite ideas about how he wanted the game to be played.
This is where it's hard. This is when your legs ache, and however you're feeling, they're aching just as much. We've got a bit of faith. They're wondering, can we pick them up?
The Magpies emerged winners by 45 points. The first very tentative step towards recovery had been made, and a sigh of relief could be felt wherever Australian football is played. In the end, Collingwood missed the finals behind Essendon on percentage. Brian Taylor kicked 100 goals, and significantly, the under-19s, where a number of the 1990 premiership side started, won the flag. 1987, however, was a horror year. Collingwood finished 12th, their equal lowest effort in their history. In 1988, Collingwood were back in the race for the flag, finishing the year in 2nd place, a magnificent achievement. Would this be the year? With Matthews at the helm, anything looked possible. But losses to the 2 teams hated the most by Collingwood in the finals saw the end of 1988, another year of disappointment. In 1989, it was much the same. The club finished 5th on the ladder, and yet another loss to Melbourne in the elimination final, this time by 23 points, after leading at half-time, saw the Matthews-led Magpies out in straight sets in 2 final series, and the question was being asked yet again, were this group of Collingwood players like those of the past 32 years, and was Matthews the man to lead them on the road to victory?